Snezhnaya Act 1 has probably been the best start to an Archon quest I've seen in quite a long time. It's been really good at connecting everyone together, just the overall vibes of the region, the atmosphere of the cold weather contrasting with the fact that their Archon is of cryo, but yet the people are dying from the cold storms, and then people's own motivations and personal ideals conflicting with the overarching Project Stuzha ideals that's supposedly gonna be the thing that saves Snezhnaya and turns a better Teyvat. Even like some kind of blind faith in the Tsaritsa, but because everyone's a subject of the Tsaritsa, then it kind of just has to be that way. So let's get into this. I've finished Act 1 of the Archon Quest. I'm very much looking forward to Act 2 after I finish this video. The main thing with Act 1 is that Project Stuzha is the main factor that connects everything and everyone together. You either hate it, you either love it, there's some in between, you understand that there's common need for it, but yet it would be nice to get some more transparency from the Tsaritsa. It's affecting the energy that affects literally everyone in the world. You have people that need the Kreshnik crystal in order to function in their everyday lives, but the supply is just so on demand and not very many. There's some corruption going on that we have some characters solve. It's really just needed for the project because the project needs a lot of energy. Energy's been a big factor recently, especially when we went to the moon and we learned that Nibelung literally has a Death Star base that requires a lot of energy in order to use it as a weapon. So a common theme has been that energy is being used as to fuel some kind of weapon. And I think that's likely the case here because we know that the Tsaritsa has some ideas of rebelling against the divine. And then the political climate is also centered around the Kreshnik crystal because we have folks like Child who seems to have a very strong faith in the Tsaritsa, but then understands that, especially from where he's from, with the more rural villages, that his people need some more. But then you contrast this with Pantalone, who finds that consistency is very theoretical. In practicality, because everyone's so different, it's hard to really have a consistent basis as to how you divide resources. I think the introduction of Alyosha as being this character who is trying to fight for the people, trying to fight corruption, it's very, very fine. The short little conflict he had with the mayor in the town was nice and quick. That's what I like to see. Because even though the traveler just arrived in Snezhnaya, Alyosha wasn't waiting for the traveler to arrive to do anything. Alyosha was already acting on his own accord to do what his view of justice is. So that was pretty cool. There's a recurring plot with how Paimon has been feeling pretty much sick ever since we stepped foot into Snezhnaya, how the energy that seems to be related to Project Stuzha is kind of affecting her a lot, and she's sort of been able to detect it more. So that's something that we're going to be seeing over time. We have one of my favorite introductions of a Harbinger, which is Pierro. In fact, he doesn't really get properly introduced, and then the Traveler greets him, and then that's sort of just it. We don't really know who he is until he leaves, but it leaves a very different side of him that we haven't seen before from the trailers. Seems quite concerned for Paimon, that there's something more to Paimon that he's likely aware of, and he's concerned for her well-being. It's a very soft-sided. We notice how Pierro never got the Harbinger introduction card during his scene. So it's something to watch out for. I think it's a very interesting layer to his character and adds a lot of potential for the future writing. As we try to get more information about Project Stuzha in general, we try to hit up our homies, the Harbinger, Snezhnaya, and Child, and Snezhnaya gives us some tea about Project Stuzha. We meet Odette, trying to help some miners that are trapped under the frost, where Traveler gets a big power-up in the Exaiphanes Sword. And of course, we have to take note of the fact that literally in the suffix of the name Phanes, that is literally the name of the primordial one. And then of course, you can make any connection you want about how this is XAI, so maybe there's an AI involved, things like that. And it's a big power-up for him, so there's going to be lore implications because it's been noted that this sword resonates with the Statue of the Seven, and it'll play a big part later on. So I really hope that they just stop using Prototype Rancor because they still used Prototype Rancor for a cutscene. And I'm like, thank goodness he canonically got this sword now, this new, better looking sword. So hopefully we don't see any more of the Prototype Rancor going forward. I think that Odette is a very interesting character so far because all we've basically seen of her is that she sort of has a double side to her. She's a Fatui member, as well as being the lead ballerina dancer of the troupe. And there's some foreshadowing about how she may be one of the ones, like Lilac, who's trying to stop Project Stuzha because her father was a Fatui member who died at the beginning of the project, and her mom also unfortunately got injured and is unable to be a dancer. So there's also the added aspect of Odette being Signora's mentee, but Signora is dead, and Odette is likely still trying to internalize and resolve her feelings about how that is, especially with the Traveler, who is pretty much responsible for Signora's death. So another faction to pay attention to is the Rokot, because with the growing disdain towards Project Stuzha, there's a group that is pretty much trying to stop it, trying to have some kind of rebellion. Similar to the Watatsumi from Inazuma, the Rokot has members such as Vodyanitsa, who is the lead singer of the troupe. So of course, Odette being the main focus of the patch because she's the limited banner, she's going to be getting more focus in Act 2, but I'm sure that we're going to get more setup in general for the other characters like Mitya, Vodyanitsa, maybe Valerie kind of thing going forward. So yeah, with regards to the Harbingers, I think that there is definitely a lot of setup for conflict between them because it's pretty much setting up Pantalone and perhaps Puccinella as the main antagonists in regards to Project Stuzha's continuing or not. So we'll see exactly how people's own personal conflicts contrast or align with Project Stuzha's continuation. And the final note that I'll make is that I really like how the Tsaritsa is currently away from Snezhnograd, the main city right now, on an expedition with an army to destroy a monster that's causing a sudden blizzard for everyone. I think that's really cool for the world building because it shows that even though the Tsaritsa is the Archon of Snezhnaya, she can't just make every possible problem go away instantly. And I get that, oh, maybe she's not powerful enough to take care of the monster by itself, but I'm not really looking at it from that perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective of there are other things happening in the world that doesn't need the traveler's involvement for it to continue, and that characters on their own still just go and try to handle them. I think that's a really cool part of the world building because one of the criticisms a lot in the past Archon quests is that everything in the world needed the traveler to be present for things to move forward, which I think is very limiting because that limits the whole idea of the world being its own entity and the characters having agency and moving on their own. So I really like that fact that we're saving the Tsaritsa's appearance for maybe Act 2, but it's cool to know that she's involved, and it's also curious as to what Project Stuzha really is. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing Act 2. Act 1 has been really strong. It's good setup. Project Stuzha connects everything together. It's going to be wonderful when we see people's conflicts contrasting and conflicting basically with Project Stuzha in general. So, yeah, I really look forward to Act 2. Act 1 has been really fun. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. So, see ya in the Act 2 review.